for the next 6 years, I literally became the walking, talking definition of a fibroid. And if you look on the NHS website and the kind of worst case scenario, I had literally ticked all of those boxes. And I think the worst thing of it all that I didn't find out until the 12th hour was that I was infertile. We've gone from 2
Wow.
to 16 that I didn't know about, and he left 2 in there. So I had 18 fibroids in total.
Welcome to Consultation Room Podcast.
Welcome to another episode, and on today's episode we are going to be following up from last episode's discussion on fibroids. And what we both agreed on is that fibroids is a very overlooked condition that's affecting many women without them knowing any better as in regards to getting any medical help. And in us trying to educate and spread awareness on this, we have a very special guest who is a multi-award winning fibroids advocate and campaigner, who is a member of the APPG on Women's Health. Welcome to the pod, Dawn.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so delighted to have you share your story and to have you inspire women who maybe have been silenced by the system or don't know what exactly is going on. So as a start, could you please share your personal story with fibroids? When did you start noticing symptoms, and what was the journey to diagnosis like for you?
Oh my goodness, where do I even begin?
I bet.
Honestly, every time I share my story, you relive it and you can't actually believe what you went through because you're out the other side. And I know that's not the same for many ladies. And it's very heartbreaking. And I'm really glad that you emphasize the fact that this is such an overlooked condition. So thank you so much for giving it space today.
Mm-hmm.
I first started suffering at the age of 14. So that's when my period started. And from day one, they were very heavy. They were very, very painful. My mum, funnily enough, also started her periods at the age of 14. Hers were exactly the same. So we therefore thought it was hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
But as this carried on with the pain, we thought, let's go to the doctor and just see what's going on, because it was one of those ones where I would come on, I'd need to be in bed for a few days.
Yeah.
So we went to the doctor, and the doctor said, it's normal for teenagers to have very heavy, very painful periods. So this is all going to peter out as you get older. You're just going to have to live with it.
Right.
I was, however, given a pill at the time. I don't know what that pill was or what it was to do, but what I do know is that it sent my kind of teenage mood swings swinging even further. My mum said,
I can imagine.
whatever that is, you're not taking it anymore, so you're just going to have to deal with ibuprofen, paracetamol.
Yeah.
And that's how I lived throughout my teenage years, planning life around periods, being very scared to go anywhere when my period was on because I was bedbound. Now, coming up to the age of sort of 17, I found out about the pill and what it can do for periods and period-like symptoms. And I found out there was one that could take away my periods potentially, which was a progesterone-only pill called Cerazette. So in my 20s, I lived my best life. I had no period, no pain. I was available for everything. Oh, amazing. But when I hit my 30s, I knew that within this decade, at some point, not at the time of 30, but I'd want to try and have children. So you used to hear, I don't know if you ladies have heard about this, they would say, come off the pill so your body can regulate. So all those chemicals, right, can come out. So I thought I'd do that. And when I came off the pill, I was hit with the most excruciating pain, the most heaviest of periods I have ever suffered with. And I couldn't understand it because I thought back to that doctor who said to me, your periods are going to be lovely, you know, come your 30s. So I thought this is probably just how it's supposed to be. because I'd heard of other people having heavy, painful periods. Remember, like the Feminax adverts when it was like, oh, you know, painful periods. So it's conditioned within us, right? Just to have to get on with it.
Yeah.
At the age of 33, I was working at a very toxic workplace. I was very, very stressed. And I remember getting a pain in my left-hand side of my abdomen, and it felt very, very different to any kind of pain I'd ever experienced in my life. I thought it was stress, but as it kind of continued, I thought, no, something's up. So let's go to the doctor. And the doctor said to me, it's probably got something to do with your cycle. You're okay. The pain progressed for about a week or two. And I thought, no, let me go back. And again, he said, it's probably got something to do with your cycle. So he was my registered GP. So the one I'd always go to see for everything.
Yeah.
But ladies, you know, when something's up with you, you're just like, no, something's not quite right.
You just know.
You just know.
Our
Right.
goes.
Absolutely. So I thought, let me bypass him and see a female doctor. So I just phoned up and said, I need to speak to a female doctor. So I went to see her, and she said, your symptoms sounds as though it's a cyst on your ovary. And I thought, cyst? Like, I don't want a cyst. I'm 33. Like, what the hell? So she goes, let's go and have a scan at the hospital. Went for the scan. The lady did an over the body ultrasound scan. And she said, oh, everything looks fine, healthy. I'm thinking, thank God. They said, oh, but you've got 2 fibroids. And I was like, what's that? And she goes,
don't know what that is.
I don't know, but it's the way they say it so casually. Like, oh, you've just got 2 fibroids. Like, off you go. I said, well, what's that?
It's
a normal thing that we see. I said, what's that? And she goes, you're going to have to go back. Like a headache. Take a pill. You're going to have to go back to your doctor and he will tell you. So I had to go back to my registered GP. And he said, yes, you've got 2 fibroids. They're 4 centimeters in size, but they're very normal, very common. Don't worry about it. You just take an ibuprofen and use a hot water bottle, and that will deal with your pain. Now, because he's a medical professional, I'm going to listen to him. He's told me it's normal, it's common. I don't have to worry about it. Off I go. But then for the next 6 years, I literally became the walking, talking definition of a fibroid. And if you look on the NHS website and the kind of worst case scenario, I had literally ticked all of those boxes. So I always say I was almost like a doctor of pain. So I had very painful, very heavy, very clotty periods. They were prolonged periods. So it wasn't your sort of typical, 4 to, 5, 6 days. It was, I was getting blood before, I was getting blood after. I had leg pain, butt cheek pain. I had a protruding belly. I had symptoms. I was frequently urinating, vitamin D deficiency, iron deficiency. I felt nauseous, headaches. And I think the worst thing of it all that I didn't find out until the 12th hour was that I was infertile. So I say the 12th hour because near to the end of my 30s is when I started to try and have a child and couldn't, but put it down to other factors, because you know how you hear, oh, your age, oh, you're old, it's probably that. Didn't have a clue that fibroids could cause infertility because I didn't know how bad it was. So to cut a long story short, I begged my doctor to go and see a gynecologist. They rescanned me. The 2 fibroids had grown to 6 and 7 centimeters, but the lady was still dismissive in the sense of, don't worry about it. People have children all the time with fibroids. There was never a management plan put in place for the fibroids I had, taking into account the symptoms I had. I ended up in A&E one time for it. Again, nothing was done. So 2021, I opened up and spoke to a work colleague because I was now at a different workplace. And she said, Dawn, remember, we've got private medical insurance here. See if you can get something done. And thankfully, I was able to. So I went to see an amazing consultant who I always say he literally changed my life and saved it. He rescanned me and said, you've got at least 6 fibroids, the biggest being the size of a grapefruit. So this is the one that was protruding my belly. I thought I was putting on weight, but it was the fibroid. And he said, it was a fibroid. And he said, you have to have an open myomectomy, which is an operation down from a hysterectomy. That's how I like to kind of see it in stages. So I thought, I'm having an operation that resembles a C-section, I always thought if I'm having that, I'll be giving birth to a baby and not birth to tumors, right?
Yeah.
So I was in distress. But at the top of 2022, we had the operation. He came round and said, Dawn, it's been a success. Do you want me to show you what we've taken out? I said, okay. He had taken a picture and he'd taken out 16 fibroids. So we've gone from 2
Wow.
to 16 that I didn't know about. And he left 2 in there. So I had 18 fibroids in total. I had to have an emergency blood transfusion a week later because I lost a lot of blood. I was very ill. And very, very, very tough recovery on that operation. But the light at my end of the tunnel was the fact that 6 months later, I fell pregnant. And in 2023, I had my absolute blessing, my daughter, which just showed you that everything was down to these fibroids. And, you know, my consultant thought the same. It's been a long journey, but sharing my story, I'll always say that I became the accidental advocate because I literally came onto Instagram to say to people, oh, I haven't been on here because I've had this operation and it's due to this. And my inbox flooded with all of these ladies saying, hold on a second, I think I'm going through this, or I am going through this, or I have been through this. And me being so empathetic, like sometimes that's my downfall. I was like, yo, I can't stop here now. And this is how this is all coming to play.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's deep. That is
very
so deep.
Like, I can't believe it. Like, to go from 2 to like 18.
And it goes to show, I'm sorry, but I always say this, sometimes if you keep hearing that no, honestly invest in your health.
Yes.
Because if you didn't go via the private insurance, honestly, you might still be in that, you know, going back and forth where you think, okay, it's only the 2, or it's only the 6, or, you know, and let's be honest, like some of these things have complications as well. As much as they say it's non-cancerous tumors, there is complications with things like that. So always, I mean, from your story, honestly, if nothing, women are inspired to seek investment when it comes to their health. Definitely. You know, because you know, you were your own advocate, wasn't you? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the definition of fibroids really irks me, and it does need to change because there's a real focus on it being benign tumors, but there is that 1% where it's not. I've had a friend who had to go down the cancer pathway. I had another friend who they thought one was sarcoma. She was given 1 day to decide whether she was going to have a hysterectomy because they thought they'd found sarcoma. And she had to have a hysterectomy there and then. So we don't want to scare people, but we need to be truthful with the reality. It could be. And this is why it really needs to be at the forefront when we're talking and trying to manage and trying to advocate for this, because this is not it's not a small condition by any stretch of the imagination. It's not.
No. Oh my goodness.
It's not.
I mean, like, you also had this fibroids for a long time before it was actually acted upon. How did the fibroids actually impact your day-to-day life, like physically and emotionally? Because you had it for so long.
When the symptoms were really at their worst, at their peak, it was one whereby I just didn't want to go out anywhere. You know, imagine waking up and you're in bodily pain and you don't want to be popping tablets all the time. So you're trying to find, you know, what other ways can help me. And I can tell you, I went to Chinese herbalist, I got acupuncture mat, I was looking at this, that, and the other to try and alleviate the pain. It was a daily struggle. When the period hit, oh my goodness, that was something that was next level on top of the pain that we were dealing with. So imagine going to work and repeatedly having to go to the toilet all the time. I would go to the toilet, be in there, change a tampon, and I mean, I was getting, you know, the super plus tampons. You stand up and you felt a gush, and I just knew if I pull that tampon out, that is full of blood. I talk very frank, ladies. I talk very frank. I pull it out and it's full of blood. You know, I've literally been in there for 2 seconds and it's full. So I'd be trying to, you know, be in the toilet, stemming up the flow, like, oh my gosh, pad, tampon, all of this. Like, and then you're panicking. My manager probably thinks I'm in here on the phone, just doing nonsense, whatever. the anxiety that surrounds it all is awful, and the flooding as well. I've had stories from myself where I'd be in a situation and you flooded and you just don't know what to do. You know, you stand up and you're like, oh my God, my clothes are covered.
Yeah.
There was a real anxiety around this whole condition, which I think mentally I still haven't dealt with that, because sometimes when I'm doing all of this, something would trigger you and you think, oh my goodness, yeah, I haven't dealt with the mental side of this condition. The physicality has been taken away because by the grace of God, I've had this open myomectomy and I'm fine. It has 360'd my life. The mental state of myself, no, because I've been suffering from 14 years old. I'm 41. I'm 41 years old. And at the age of 38 was when I had the fibroids removed. That's a long time, right?
It's a long time.
That's too long.
It is a long time.
That is too long.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, so I suppose you've had to advocate for yourself during this period. What was it like learning to advocate for yourself, and especially in this medical settings? And how did that, say, influence your journey? And how would you say that has actually affected you as a person?
I'll be very honest with you. I don't think I advocated for myself enough. I just believed what people told me. So if it was a thing of, oh, but you know, don't worry, oh, you know, take this tablet, I would go and do it. And that's why now with the work I do, I'm literally screaming at women to speak up. And it's weird because naturally as a person, I do speak up. I'm a strong woman. I can speak up. But I think sometimes when it comes to a medical professional being in front of you, it's almost like, oh, well, you know, what they say is gospel. I must just, you know, just go off. They know best.
Yeah.
Right. They know best over my body. We are the experts over our body because every single day we're living with whatever condition, whatever pain. We are the experts.
That's right.
So I will always put my hand up and say, I didn't advocate enough. Now, when you see me go to doctors, if it's for myself, my fiance, my daughter, my mum, dad, listen, you can't, I'm there, I'm a problem now because I can speak up. But I honestly didn't during those times. And that's why I went on suffering for so long. I should have changed doctors. I should have changed practice. You know, you can do these things. I should have sought the help of someone who had an interest in women's health. That's a very easy switch to make within a practice for doctors. You live and you learn, you know, never again. But I didn't advocate properly for myself.
Yeah. But it's one of those things, I think once you have lived it, you get to look back and then you're like, okay, maybe if I had actually done this differently, the outcome would have been different. But it's always the case with everything. And until you actually go through it, you can't learn any different, can you?
Absolutely. And, you know, as we've talked about, unfortunately and fortunately, private medical healthcare, it's just worth its weight in gold. I'm always very upfront and I say, I got that through work. So, you know, of course, I'm paying a little bit into it, but my company's paying the most.
Yes.
So it's not something I sought. But I always say to ladies, check your contracts at work to see. And if not, go and see if you can do like some price comparison website and see if you can afford that private medical healthcare, because it's all about that time, isn't it? That time factor's taken out. You literally can call up today and get that appointment tomorrow and have so much sorted out in your life. I talk to ladies all the time about this. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be like that, but it is what it is, isn't it?
I think during the talk as well, you mentioned like something about the fibroid being like 1% being cancerous and stuff. I feel like there are some misconceptions about fibroids. What are some of the misconceptions that you have encountered and having fibroids, and how can you address them?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I think one of the biggest one with ladies having fibroids is that hysterectomy is the answer. So what I tend to find with ladies that they'll go in, they'll see a consultant, and the first thing they're saying to them, a hysterectomy can sort that out because we're taking out the womb, it will never come back. But there are lots of treatments that are out there, and better treatments now to date, that can help ladies preserve the womb, because it's not just all about your womb's there to have a baby. They don't explain the risk factors thereafter with the fibroids. Another massive misconception with fibroids is that all fibroids cause pain. A lot of them don't. There's a huge amount of ladies who are asymptomatic, so they won't actually know they've got fibroids until perhaps they've gone for a scan. Typically, when they're having a baby, they'll scan and go, oh, did you know that you had fibroids? It's like, oh, actually, no, I didn't. So it hasn't posed a problem. So there are some ladies who can, I guess, essentially watch and wait if they have a fibroid and it's not really causing them any issue. So that's another massive misconception with regards to fibroids.
Wow. Okay. I mean, there is going to be plenty of misconceptions because you know, just because maybe it's not out there, it's not known, doesn't mean that it's actually not happening. You know,
absolutely.
Especially with something that you just said, which is sometimes, you know, when women are having babies, that's when they're told, did you know you have a fibroid? And then they do ask, oh, do you have a history of fibroids in your family? And you're thinking, maybe not. But then they're like, oh, if you don't, then you'll be fine. Or, you know, you shouldn't have. But see, that is a misconception as well, you know. So there is plenty of misconceptions. And I feel like this is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
If they take this with the same sort of like weight as they do, you know, conditions like, say, hypertension, which is something that is known to be quite severe, then women will be able to speak more. Women will be more aware as to what is going on. And it's honestly, it is sad. It is sad that this is not something that's spoken about enough.
There's a doctor called Dr. Un, and she has a quote where she says something along the lines of, they don't take fibroids seriously because it doesn't kill. So if you think about that, because it doesn't kill, they don't take it seriously. But we know the ramifications of this condition, you know, 100%. How debilitating it can be for many thousands of women. I'm yet to speak to a person who has just said, you know what, I've had them and, you know, it's okay. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No.
And you think you've been through the worst, and then you speak to somebody else and you think, oh my gosh.
That's it. And I love that quote, what you've just said, because, you know, just because it's not killing a woman, you know, the technical, you know, terms of killing, it doesn't mean it's actually not killing her, because that's not a life to live.
And it really affects people's quality of life.
That's what I mean. That's not a life to live.
Absolutely.
You know? Be in bed for days and, you know, in pain. I'm sorry, but that is not a life. So it does kill, you know, it actually does
kill. It does. It kills your very being. That's what it does. It kills your very being. And because we don't have that much information on it, women are so stuck as to what to do. It's literally, I always say with fibroids, the diagnosis is quite quick. So it's not like endo where you hear a lot of ladies saying, oh, it took me 8 years to get diagnosed. The diagnosis is relatively quick for fibroids. It's the management that is when you hear 8, 10, 15 years of dealing with this, because they literally leave you, you know, not even a leaflet to signpost them to something to say, well, this is what it's all about. It's ridiculous.
No, it is. Dawn, what would you advise then someone who is feeling overwhelmed and unheard by, say, healthcare professionals, or anyone who's actually just feeling overwhelmed by maybe a diagnosis of fibroids? Because as we said, it's not something that is well known. It's the causes, you know, whatever it is, it's not well known. It's not well researched. We don't know much about it. So anyone who, say, goes to a doctor and they're told it is a non-cancerous tumor, you should be fine with it. But then you go and, you know, you do your Googles and you're like, I'm sorry, but I'm reading all these stories, and you get overwhelmed, let's be honest. What would you advise to anyone in that position?
I think the first thing I always say is you have to educate yourself on the condition. I know it's very, very scary to get any kind of diagnosis, but you almost have to become the expert on this. So have a look online. There's lots of great advocates as well that are out there, and look at the detail of this condition, because when you're ready to go back to your doctor or back to your consultant, when you start hitting them with the terms and the treatment options, they literally turn around and go, oh, yes, of course you can have this.
And they're like, okay, she knows what she's talking about.
I can't mess about with her. So that is it. we have already touched about advocating for yourself. It's so important, and I think it's important to understand that you only get one body and you can't do it a disservice. So if you are not happy with what has been said, advocate and change. A second opinion is key. I've had many women come and they've told me what their consultant have said. I said, go and get a second opinion. And that second opinion has changed the whole pathway of their fibroid journey for the better. So that's another top tip. Another one is support groups. I'm gonna plug my own shamelessly.
By all means.
But that's something that I didn't even know existed when I went through my journey. And I wish I had the support of someone. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't speak to my mum or whatever. I could. But I feel as though when you're going through something, you almost like need somebody else there who understands and gets it. So I have a not-for-profit organization called the Guidance Suite. It's all about empowering women with information and guidance so they can take control of their womb health. We meet online and in person. So it's not just for fibroids, it's for all conditions. And we have medical professionals on there as well. Because the other thing I'm trying to do is to bridge the gap between medical professionals and patients, because there's a huge distrust between the two. We do need medical professionals and medical professionals need us. So if we come together and get that correct information, it feels great. But the support group is a space for women to come to laugh, scream, vent, cry, use the space however they want to use it, because mentally, as we've touched upon today, it can rock your whole world. And when you're in a space and you're able to just speak freely without judgment and get the guidance you need, it's a real game changer. So support groups are also key. You will find the sisterhood there, and you will absolutely feel as though you're not alone, because it can make you feel a bit crazy. Is it only me? That's how I felt like that. I was like, is it only me with these fibroids? And then, like I said, when I shared the story and I saw so many, even some of my own friends who I've known for years, we didn't talk about what's going on with our periods, and we go, but I've also got fibroids too. It's like, what?
You find out that a lot of people go through, like,
when you start talking about some of these things, I think that's part of this conversation. We need to be comfortable talking about what's going on with us women. Because you don't realise how much we're all in the same sort of boat when it comes to a lot of things. You know, when you start talking to some of your friends
that's
about
when you
things,
notice, oh, you're also going through the same thing.
You know? Like, even financially, you know, when the economy hits, and you're like, oh, am I the one being affected? Am I just being the one who's not really been, you know? And then you speak to people like, oh, listen, I can barely afford that pint of milk. And you're like, it's not just me, you know? So it's very important.
We've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Periods happen. If you know, if we're focusing on periods, it happens to us all, each and every month. That is not a taboo. That is reality, and that is life. And I often get in my DMs, "Oh, Dawn, sorry to be TMI. It's not too much information. It's fine. This is what happens. It's normal. It happens to us all. Let's just
what your body's meant to do."
Exactly. We'll be worried if it's not doing this. So we really need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable so we can continue. And that's why I'm proud of you girls for having space for us to speak about things like this. So people can check out and go, oh, actually, that sounds like me. You know, it's fine, but I just need to deal with it, you know?
Yes. That is so important. That is, honestly, having that platform and just being open about some of these conversations is going to change the game for women.
Honestly. And I mean, you told us about how you became an advocate and stuff. What about our listeners out there? How can they be involved in like fibroids awareness? I know you have like the support group, but what if someone wants to also raise awareness for fibroids? Is there any words or advice you can give to anyone out there?
I think the main thing is to speak up. So if you have a platform, it doesn't matter, one follower, I don't care. Speak up and share your story. I think that's what I'm really trying to encourage women. So I have a live that I do on Instagram called My Fibroid Journey, and I'm always asking ladies, if you've got a fibroid journey, let's jump on a live and let's speak about it. A lot of ladies are like, but who's going to want to hear my story? But what they don't understand is that when they're speaking, they are dropping gems within their story because they've gone through something, they've tried different things, and that resonates with a lot of people where they can then say, oh, actually, I could probably go and try this. So speaking up is crucial. The more voices, the more impact, and we can therefore seek change. Collaboratively, you know, I'm always open for collaboration with anybody who gives fibroids a platform. I'm so grateful because yes, there are other conditions out there and they all need a platform, but there are some conditions that gets the light more than others, and we equally all need to have this platform. So collaboration is key. And then, yes, we do have Awareness Month. So July is Fibroid Awareness Month. It does very well in America, as you can probably imagine. But in the UK, so much. And
we're going to change that.
Right? You know, I'm starting to be very real. I'm seeing a lot of performatism from companies who will state that they're all for women's health, but then again, they're only focusing on certain conditions. And when it comes to fibroids, you don't hear a peep out of them. And that's not what it's about. Again, equally, these conditions need to get a change. So back them all when they've got an awareness month. So I really want to be able to put fibroids on the map. And I've just said for like 2025, like we need to go in, especially when we do have these awareness months, and just pull up all the guns blazing. And then the other thing is a collaboration with the medical professionals who are on Instagram as well. I have some amazing medical professionals that work with myself, and I'm forever grateful for them, for their support. But the issue that advocates like myself find, I'm not the only one, is that sometimes we find that there isn't a respect for medical professionals due to the fact that I'm not here and I'm not Dr. Dawn Heels. Do you get what I mean? And it's like they're the expert, but we are experts of lived experiences. We've actually gone through it.
Experienced it. Yeah.
And listen, the way we will go and research, sometimes I think we are actually the doctors, because we research because we want to get better. So we have done extensive research on this.
Yes.
But that's why I try and, like I said, I try and bridge the gap, bring people on so they can talk about the condition, because it does not need to be a you versus us. It needs to be us all together. You know, I can talk about the condition from a medical perspective, but here is the person with the lived experience and their experience who can talk about it, and we come together. It's very, very easy, but you know how it is. So those are some of the key points that I feel like, you know, if anybody wants to get involved, mainly it's about speaking up and not being scared to share your story. And I know it's really, really difficult, especially when I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like people who know me that didn't know about my journey are going to hear about my journey, and it was a shocker for many of them, but they're now all on board for helping spread awareness or signposting people. So
wow, that is wonderful.
I think that's brilliant.
That is so like do you know what, I feel I've been in these shoes, but I feel inspired. I'm like
Truly, you're going to come and do a live with me and share your fibroid journey, right?
You know what, Dawn? I actually will do that. I will.
Right.
Talking of that, I have a very personal question to ask you.
That's fine.
So I had my myomectomy in the summer, so just 3 months ago.
Okay.
And I'm still going through the whole healing process, right?
Yeah.
But I've got a question for you. So at what point after your treatment did you have your first, I'd say, healthy period?
The third cycle. So the way my it was awful. So the way my periods kind of panned out. So I remember I had just finished my period just before the day of my operation, and then you bleed naturally thereafter after the open myomectomy. But so my periods, thank goodness, came back like clockwork after the operation. But that first one took me all the way out. That pain, the heavy blood flow, but it's all to do with like the healing of the inside of your wound. So a lot of people get scared because they think, but hold on, I've just had a massive operation, why aren't my periods like non-existent? But you've got to give your body time. But it was my third cycle that I saw a difference. And I can categorically tell you now, and this spins my mind, my periods are so light. And often I have pain-free periods where I stand and I go, but I don't understand what this is. When it's the weirdest thing to bleed and not have an ounce of pain. And we don't talk about,
I can't wait.
right? We don't talk about that side of things because we're used to pain. And I've stood there with my fiance and I've gone, babes, I've got no pain. I'm on my period. It's just like, I don't get it.
Oh my God.
So third cycle, I began to see a difference. And I mean, I had my operation 2022. So we're down. I've had a child since then as well. Again, my periods return back fine, but they are so light. And like I said, most months they'll be pain-free. If I get pain, it's not even one where I have to reach for a tablet. It's just that niggly pain that you're getting. Oh, okay, it's fine. Which exactly.
With you being through a period of no pain in your 20s and no period basically, and then in your 30s the worst pain you could experience, and then now I'm sure you can definitely feel the difference, like massively.
And I remember day one of my period, don't even talk to me because I couldn't even talk, the pain was so bad. But now day one of my period, I can be here, there, everywhere, and I'll be, oh yeah, day one of my period and I'm fine. But the crazy thing is you realize what is normal and what is not. And I don't call my periods normal periods. I call them happy periods, because what is normal, right? But I just know that my periods are happy, right? But I knew that I had very bad periods before, and that was not normal. So that's why I say to women, heavy, painful periods are not normal, because I'm now living a very different life. So I know that for a fact.
Oh,
I am looking forward to that.
Well, I get it. Give it, I always say, give it time, because obviously everybody's body is different. And I have had some ladies where it's been a year and then after they start to see a difference. So sometimes our bodies just take a long time to heal. So give it time. Obviously, if it's a prolonged period of time, you do need to go back and see someone to say, well, there's no real change. But typically from your sort of third cycle, you will see things start to decrease and pain go and things like that.
Okay, brilliant. Do you have any final words for us, for our listeners?
Yeah, I just, this condition, I call them balls of hell, because that's what they are. They're not just these benign tumors that are found in and around the uterus. No, they're balls of hell. They're balls of absolute hell that can change your life completely. I want ladies to know that they're not alone, first of all. There is help that they can seek, but they're going to have to, unfortunately, do a lot of the work themselves. That's the reality of it. Like I say, we go in for our scans, we get diagnosed, and then that seems to be the only way out. You just go deal with it. Myself and other advocates behind the scenes, we're doing so much to try and change this. So in terms of guidelines to follow, there's lots of different guidelines that doctors can follow. It depends which guideline that they decide to follow. So it could be one that's quite extensive where you've got a lot of help, or it could be one where it's like, oh, well, just, push them away and that's it. So we want to have one where there are guided steps, and this is what you do. The first thing that any woman should be going to is a consultant gynecologist who specializes in fibroids. I don't want to hear in endo, in adeno, in fibroids. So that's the first thing that women need to get out of the GP, go to the specialist and tell them to refer. I've got lots of resources on my page to help you. You're not alone. Push for change, so push for that advocacy to see whoever it is that you need to see. Educate yourself on that condition. And just know, once you do that, you should be able to get the treatment options that you need. Never let a doctor force you into a treatment option that you're not comfortable with. The decision is supposed to be joint. You are jointly supposed to come to that decision with the medical professional. If you don't like what they're saying, get a second opinion. And I'm going to leave it there.
Oh, brilliant. I've learned so much, honestly. I think one thing that really stuck up to me is we need to speak up. And I'm going to take that on board, because especially for me, I think I tend to not speak up. And that is something I'm going to really, really, really put my foot on from now on when it comes to my health. That.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dawn. We really
Thank
appreciate
you for having me.
coming on. Thank you for sharing such a powerful story.
You're very welcome.
It's been invaluable. Invaluable.
Thank you.
We've learned a lot today, and your journey and advocacy are truly inspiring, and I hope it really resonates with our listeners out there. I know it will resonate with our listeners out there. And fibroids is so common, as we already mentioned, and loads of people are experiencing it. So you're not alone. Honestly, get in contact, speak for yourself, as Dawn said. And she shares loads of similar stories on her page. So please do find her at Dawn_Hills on Instagram if you want to hear some more inspiring stories out there. We really, really appreciate you coming on here. Honestly, thank you so much. And
You're
for
welcome.
our listeners out there, hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. We learned so much. And follow, subscribe, you literally share, send to your sisters, your auntie, anyone, to hear this inspiring story, because it's something that everybody needs to hear so that they can advocate for themselves. So please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, a healthy chat is a step towards a healthy life.
If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss, drop us an email at consultationroompod@gmail.com. Our Instagram is @consultationroompod. See you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed.